I'm not going to mince words about this. I want justice for that tiger. Westworld Season 2, Episode 3, Virtu y Fortuna. I'm sure I butchered that accent really badly, so my apologies there. So, spoilers, if you couldn't tell just from the intro bit. So there's some interesting wrinkles going on here. We get our first like serious look at another park other than, you know, other than Westworld. You know, we get a look at basically, I think it's like British colonial India, which is an odd choice. Well, it's funny. I was gonna say that's an odd choice, except that if you trail on from you know, the idea of Westworld, you know, people coming in and getting to fill certain roles, like if you wanted to basically take on the role of the British people, yeah, it was a nice place to be if you don't mind being an unscrupulous bastard. But the guests seem to really enjoy being unscrupulous bastards in this park, so I guess it works. So that was interesting, seeing a bit more of that, seeing where things are starting to break down and bleed over a little bit, which came back at the end, because looks like we're finally looking to pay off a little bit of having seen Samurais at the end of the first season. We got more Maeve this time, which is good. More Maeve's always good. I'm really enjoying her and Hector. The two of them together are just, they have a great chemistry. I really enjoyed sort of the insight we got on the writer, who she's dragging along, who was a character I really didn't like in the first season, but the dynamic they've got him working in now works better, and he seems to be gaining a little bit of depth as we like get some insight into how stuff that's gone on in his own life influenced the storylines that he was writing. So that was interesting on him. And also his frustration at Hector having broken from his original storyline, his original programming, you know, getting really angry at him. You're not supposed to have love for anybody but Isabella, like getting genuinely upset by that. And then Hector getting even more upset that this little twerp would dare to think that he could control him. And also their other friend from the end of last season's back, the one with, well, she's got two arms again, but one of them is obviously a replacement. And Felix is back. Felix and slightly more skeevy tech guy, whose name I can't remember, but I'm also glad isn't dead yet, because while he wasn't great, he also, you know, he was not one of the really questionable and sleazy and like gross tech guys from the first season. I'm glad they appear to all be dead, but this guy was, you know, he was kind of a bumbling, like, oh man. So I'm really liking like the little crew that Maeve's built up, and I'm really gonna be curious to see where that goes. Watching things play out with Dolores, it is interesting, and right now I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt, because this aspect runs the risk of just being inconsistent writing. But right now I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt, because I'm liking how there seems to be at odds the degree to which the hosts are able to break away from their original programming, and how much of that still hangs on and is driving their actions, including Dolores. Because, you know, for all her, you know, having been basically the original one to break free and forge her own thing, when confronted with what she is programmed to believe is her father, that triggers something. So she's still not totally free of this programming and of these dictations from people that she is now trying to friggin' kill. And I find that interesting. And honestly, the scene between her and Abernathy, it choked me up. It didn't get full on tears, but it did choke me up, because it felt very much like trying to have a conversation with somebody with dementia. You know, some back and forth of just not getting through, and then it's like the clouds part and they're there, and you can engage on a level that you thought didn't exist anymore, and then almost as fleetingly it's gone. And I don't know how deliberate that evocation would have been, but it certainly rang that bell for me, and it made it a very powerful, very believable emotional moment, because that rang very true to me, based off some of my own experiences. So that worked really well, which is good, because if it didn't work, then some of her reactions towards, like, when she sees them, taking Abernathy, that might have made me go, nope, don't buy it. But that scene worked so well, and she played it so well that yeah, I was on board and I bought it. I am still trying to figure out Dolores to some extent, in terms of her trying to decide who does deserve to live and who should be dying, because at least so far as I think I understand her goals, it does seem like she is weakening her own position, in terms of, like, talking this commander and his army into fighting for her and then turning on them. I feel like I need to understand what it is she's really after a little bit better to be sure that actually pans out. Which, again, if they don't pan that out properly, then it just comes across as them trying to make her generically untrustworthy, villainous, crazy. I don't know. So I'm hoping there's going to be a little bit more rhyme and reason to that than I feel like there currently is. What else have we got? Oh, Bernard. I'm finding him really, really intriguing at this point as a character, as he's just trying to suss out what's going on, and at this point having an understanding of what he is. I find it makes him very interesting, and I feel for the guy a lot, because he is so in over his head, and he knows it. What else we got? Tessa Thompson, that whole end of things, that's still the weekend for me. Not because of her, she's very good, but the whole, we need to get Abernathy out of the park, and the military response to the uprising of the hosts are the elements that I kind of inherently have the least interest in. I understand why they're there. I understand why the military response is there. I'm still not sure I understand why the trying to get Abernathy and whatever code is embedded within him out is there. I'm still like, eh. But I hope, and so far they haven't overrun the narrative, and I really hope they don't, because pretty much everything else I find way more interesting. I find Maeve and her crew and her quest more interesting. I find Dolores and her goals and trying to understand them a lot more interesting. I find the Man in Black, who didn't show up this episode, but he's still awesome, and his whole thing way more interesting. And yeah, that's easily the like, at best, the fourth, possibly, because I might be forgetting some stuff, the fifth or sixth most interesting story element going on. Oh, I do have one thing that I put this on a wish list for down the line. I really hope that at some point this season we get a native character that is a proper character and isn't just the painted warrior savage. Like, right now they do have, from a writing perspective, they do have the excuse that this is probably how the story creators at Westworld would have made the natives to be, for the sake of the narratives that they were doing. So there is kind of a meta excuse as to why they can get away with that, but I feel like at a certain point that becomes like how, the excuse in Game of Thrones for how much rape there is become, well, Westeros is a real misogynistic society. What are you going to do? Like, well, at a certain point, like, once you've established that, at a certain point, if you keep going back to that, and that becomes overly prevalent, I feel like you can't just blanket and go, well, that's just how it is here. I'm like, okay, yeah, but we know that. You're not telling us anymore by showing that over and over and over again. And it's not at that level yet with the native, I was gonna say characters. They haven't been proper characters at this point. But if we don't get somebody who feels like a proper character and isn't just a danger something for other characters to be afraid of or watch out for or shoot, then I'm going to start to get annoyed at that, because even if you can come up with a narrative justification, that still feeds a very harmful stereotype of the savage American native, and we don't need more of that. You know, I'm not saying we need to do the noble savage cliche instead, because that's its own, you know, can of worms. But can we get a proper character out of these guys, instead of they just keep showing up to be like the boogeymen? And yeah, that is starting to bug me. It's not a problem yet, but if we don't get like a proper character out of this lot, yeah, that I'm gonna have a legit complaint on that one. I think. Oh, the other thing that I found really interesting, it was really clever with Bernard, and I'm really sorry, I forgot Tessa Thompson's character, where they basically lure away one guy and then reprogram, like spike his virtue, spike his gunslinging ability, and then just set him back, so that all of a sudden the horrible things he was about to do, he sees his men getting ready to do those things. He's like, oh no, boom, 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 boom. Like, that's really good, and that's really clever, and that's an intelligent way for people who have like this one very limited resource to figure out a way to get around these guys, because they if they can get them, they can rework them a bit, but you know, that's just using what you have really well, which is the kind of solution to these sorts of problems I like. You know, just smart application of the few things that you have to your advantage. So I think that's about it. I'm expecting we'll get more Man in Black next episode, since he was absent this one, so I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, there's a lot that is intriguing me. Like I said at a couple of points, I'm seeing the pitfalls. I'm seeing where the show could dip or could fall into some holes, at least in terms of what I would prefer to have from it. But for the most part, still going good, still going strong. So that is Westworld, episode 3 of season 2. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Hope you did. I talk spoilers. Whatever your thoughts are, drop them down in the comments. Let's talk about it. There's all the stuff to do, such as support me on Patreon, try and help make the show better, like, subscribe, and Twitter, and podcasts, and links for all that stuff's in the description. So until next time, this council is adjourned.